Welcome to the Middle Eight Football Podcast, the fastest 8 minutes in sports, where all fans, even Titans fans, are welcome. I'm your host, Joe Burks, and this is our inaugural episode, so let me break down how this podcast is going to work. Every episode is going to be about 8 minutes long. It's made for people that don't have the time to listen to that hour-long podcast to get all their football news in. If you've heard the term the Middle Eight in football, it kind of refers to the 4 minutes both before and after halftime. Those are the most crucial minutes in a football game where momentum can shift at any time. The game can be won or lost. Likewise, these should be the most important 8 minutes of your day where you're getting all your football news. And who knows, maybe this podcast can affect the outcome of your entire week. But we're going to break down some college football week one takeaways as well as a Thursday night preview for the Cowboys and Eagles game that's coming up later this week. Let's go and start off with the college football week one recap. This is always going to be a very pivotal year for college football. A lot of guys entering years that are super huge seasons that may define the rest of their careers. First up, we have the biggest game of the week. We had number 1 Texas versus number 3 Ohio State, and I think the biggest point of emphasis here, the game ended 14-7. Ohio State came out on top, the defending national champions. And the biggest thing to remember is I think we shouldn't overreact to this game. Easy to forget that Arch Manning and Julian Saban, both quarterbacks, were making their first career starts against very elite defenses. These are, playoff level defenses, especially Ohio State. But Texas is a very solid defense as well. And I think I fell for the narrative too. We should have expected these quarterbacks to struggle like they did. Saban obviously I think had a better game than Arch Manning, which not a lot of people expected. I think both these teams should be encouraged. I mean, their defenses looked really, really strong, and their quarterbacks are going to get better with time. Then moving on to Miami versus Notre Dame, probably the best game of the week. Ended up 27-24, I believe. Miami coming out on top. Carson Beck, Miami quarterback, transfer from Georgia, really needed this game. He struggled last year for Georgia. Really, a lot of people lost faith in him, but he came back, looked comfortable in this Miami offense, only got sacked one time, went 20 for 30 for 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But Notre Dame quarterback C.J. Card looked very good as well. And these are two teams that I expect to see in the college football playoff when that time rolls around. Florida State versus Alabama. Number 8 Alabama goes down, probably the biggest upset of the week. One of the blue bloods of college football against unranked Florida State. Former Boston College quarterback Thomas Castellanos transferred to Florida State this offseason. Had this to say before the game: they don't have Nick Saban to save them. I just don't see them stopping me. He proved that to be true. Had a very solid game, especially on the ground against Bama. And it's important to note that he has now released T-shirts with that quote on them since they beat Alabama. So is Kalen DeBoer. This is already his 4th unranked loss so far in his career in just over a season as the head coach of Alabama. So it's important. I think obviously he gets the rest of the season to figure it out, but if there are more losses like this on the schedule, I think the higher ups at Alabama really consider moving on maybe after the season. But obviously there's still time to figure stuff out. It's week 1. And speaking of still time to figure stuff out, we have Clemson versus LSU. LSU rallied back to win after being down 10-3 at the half. Their quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, had a very good game, especially in the second half. Had some ridiculous throws, especially one down the sideline that I think was ruled not a touchdown. Very much looked like a touchdown, but he probably looked like the best quarterback from week 1. On the other side of things, Clemson's quarterback, Cade Klubnik, probably my favorite quarterback in college football heading into the season, really struggled. Pressure forced him into his only interception of the game. Really not a strong start from him, but I still believe in him. He showed so much talent, so much NFL promise last season. Some ridiculous throws he put on tape, but he is one to watch. I think he's going to bounce back. There's a reason they were ranked number 4 in the preseason poll. So a huge win for LSU, snapping that opening day losing streak they had, but great win for Nussmeier and the Tigers. Moving on to South Carolina, Virginia Tech. Really not much to say here. Lenore Sellers, one of the most high-profile quarterbacks in college football for South Carolina. He's a physical runner. He's massive. He's got a good arm. Played quite well, especially towards the end of the South Carolina game. Hit a couple really nice runs to get him first downs. Had a nice touchdown deep down the field to really put the dagger in the game against Virginia Tech. But Sellers, for parts of the game, looked the part of the high-profile, high-draft pick quarterback that we expect him to be with that insane athletic profile. I think he's 240 pounds, just a massive quarterback. But overall, there were some definite disappointments out of the college football world this week, and some very just fantastic games, especially that Miami-Notre Dame game. But I think the one thing to remember is that this is week 1. Adjustments are going to be made. Players are going to get a lot better throughout the season, especially a guy like Cade Klubnik. Like I said, I think he's going to continue to improve. Arch Manning, I think, is going to get a lot better. So I'm excited to see where this college football season goes. We can move on to our Thursday night preview for week 1 of the NFL season, Dallas versus Philadelphia. This could be a get-right game for Dallas. They obviously really struggled last season, didn't make the playoffs. And Dak Prescott, their $60 million a year quarterback, returning from that season-ending hamstring injury he suffered a year ago that kept him out for the rest of the year. He's going to look to have at least a decent showing in his first game back from injury. And that defense, I think, is going to take a big hit as well without Micah Parsons, the superstar pass rusher. He had 12 sacks in 13 games last season. They traded him away after the contracts talks stalled with the worst owner in the league, Jerry Jones. He seemingly traded his team's best player over a few $1 million, which, if you know anything about NFL salaries, that's not a lot in terms of superstar paychecks. But nonetheless, Dallas is facing one of the best teams in football, and you have to wonder where's the pass rush going to come from without Parsons, who obviously was the motor, the heart of that defense. You had Chauncey Golston, who had 5.5 sacks. He's now on the Giants. Carl Lawson, 5 sacks. He's a free agent. DeMar Van Overshown, linebacker, who was all over the field last season, 5 sacks. He's out for the first few weeks of the season at least after suffering a knee injury. Then DeMarcus Lawrence, longtime veteran, he's down the Seahawks. He had 3.5 sacks, I believe, but was also a key run defender for them the last few seasons. So you have to wonder where it's going to come from. They did add Dante Fowler, who had a double-digit sack season in Washington last season. So we'll see if he's able to have the same production apart from Dan Quinn, the Commanders organization. And apart from that, the player with the most sacks in 2024 still on the Dallas roster and not injured is defensive tackle Osa Odigizua with 4.5 sacks. So you lost a lot of sack production this season, both in free agency, through trades, through injuries. Jerry Jones did talk a lot about how he wants the run defense to get better. I think Kenny Clark is going to help that. I mean, do you really think one player is going to help out the entire defense? Obviously, Micah Parsons was able to, but I don't think Kenny Clark is on the same level. I think a lot of people would agree with me. And right now, this team just seems directionless. They have that big money extension in effect with Prescott. He's the highest paid player in the NFL, but they traded away their superstar pass rusher over just a few $1 million in terms of what they were looking for in an extension. They need to compete this year because they have the pieces to. Dak Prescott's only getting older, but the defense is a huge question mark for me. Also, Jerry Jones was right. The rush defense was awful. They were 29th in rush yards per game allowed in 2024. They allowed 137.1 rushing yards per game. That's a just astronomically bad number. Against the Eagles, I don't see this working out very well for them. Moving on to the Eagles, they return a ton of starters from the Super Bowl team. They averaged 29 points per game in 2024, which is 5th in the NFL. Allowed 17.8 points per game defensively, which is 2nd in the NFL. So they're elite on both sides of the ball, returning so many starters. The biggest staff change for them was Kevin Patullo, the new offensive coordinator, who was an internal hire, so I'm not too worried about that. And then some new starters on defense. Defensive tackle Moro Ojomo, linebacker Jahad Campbell, outside linebacker Jalix Hunt. Those are 3 pieces in the front 7 that I like a lot. Jahad Campbell was the first-round pick. Ojomo showed some flashes last year, especially in the postseason, and Hunt as well had a great Super Bowl game. The big question mark I see here is the other starting outside cornerback spot, which is either going to go to Adoree Jackson or Kelee Ringo. Jackson was a free agent addition, and Ringo's been with the team for a couple of years now. But this is a team that has a dominant defensive line. We know Jalen Carter is an absolute superstar at this point. They have Nolan Smith on the edge. He's a young player who's finding his footing in the NFL. We saw him have a good year last year. Overall, I don't think Dallas is going to be able to stop Philly's return. They have an elite offense. Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devon Smith, Saquon Barkley, who ran for over 2,000 yards last year. My prediction is an Eagles win 31-21. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. If you did, go ahead and give it a follow, share with your friends, and give a comment on what you think. That's all I got for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.